Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be our Q1 2025 goals and portfolio update video. And in this series, what we're doing, I just talk about my own personal goals, right? I just talk about where I see the market at, what I'm looking at, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, what's working, what's not working, and just kind of give my own personal view on the market, right? So this isn't really a big video. This is more of a personal video I like to do just to kind of be able to reflect back and see where the mindset was at, see where the goals were at, see what I was doing, see what I was liking, what I wasn't liking, and kind of go from there, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So I do quarterly goals, right? You guys know I do overall goals. I've had goals, done that from the beginning of this channel. I try to update them quarterly, right? And a big reason, I'm a big advocate for that, for setting goals, targets, whether it's like goal amounts of coins, whether it's in fiat or in terms of the amount of coins, whatever it is. I just like having it set up that way. That way it does take a lot of the emotions out of the game, right? This is for you guys newer to this volatility especially, this is the biggest, hardest part of this thing. It's the mind fuck of all this volatility. Okay, this is what makes being in crypto so difficult when you're looking at values, especially when you're looking at fiat values going up and down aggressively, right? Especially these past like 3-4 months. If you look at your overall portfolio, especially if you're alt heavy, it's probably gone down pretty freaking massively regardless of what you're holding, right? And that's the hardest part, is getting those emotions out. So for me, what I have found from the beginning, easiest way to get the emotions out, set up goals, right? Specifically with like looking at numbers, not based on fiat values, but the amount of coins you want to hit, right? Setting up price targets, like what do you think this can potentially hit in the bull market based off of the overall total market cap of crypto? What percentage do you think it's going to get? Where do you think it's going to get? And basing it off of that, right? So typically a lot of my targets and goals, they're kind of long term. A lot of them are considered more conservative, and it's to the point where even with this downtrend, a lot of them still make sense, right? So a lot of them initially, when the market is bullish, like, it's too conservative, but even at these targets, they still make sense, right? So that's just how I like to view it, and that's how I'm able to get through these tougher times a lot easier, right? I try not to look at like portfolio values. I'm just focused on hitting those goals, hitting targets, hitting goals, DCing into that until I hit that goal, then on to the next one, on to the next one, etc., right? And at this point, it's time for me to reassess how to play this thing, right? So for me, though, this was going to be a pivotal time because this was going to be my time to decide what to do with the ASICs, right? So for example, with previously in my last update video, or not even last October, I kind of set that to be the deadline for if I was going to purchase any more larger ASICs, right? And at that point, it was a no-go. And then right now, the target was to decide what I was going to do with the current ones. Is it time to sell them? If I was going to keep them, then it would be time to profit take. Because initially, trying to be forward thinking based on what was happening at the end of the year, and considering the fact that typically Q1, specifically February, March, were typically bullish in the post-halving year for the cycle, was kind of expecting to be in a lot better place where there were profits to be had, right? In this case, it's making this decision extremely easy because there's no profits to be had, right? So it's definitely not going to make sense to sell any of the ASICs at this point, just because, again, the value is going to be next to nothing because the coins are worth next to nothing in many cases, right? So definitely keeping them, definitely not plugged in, right? Not even to the point where I'm mining because, number one, my electric rate went up a few months ago. Number two, even if I was at 10 cent kilowatt hour, I'd probably be unplugged right now anyway because of how bad the market is, right? So in a sense, it just kind of sped up the process, right? So for me, I'm definitely unplugged, definitely still stacking though, right? So that was going to be another question. What was I going to do? Was it going to be time to start not stacking so much, start de-risking a little bit? But no, because of where the prices are, that's also a definite. Gonna continue to be stacking, right? So gonna do the same game plan as always, right? So essentially the way I run it, I have my X amount that I would pay my electric out of pocket every month. Again, I mine and hodl. Now that I'm not mining though, what I'm doing is that same amount of money I'd be paying the electric company, I'm just using that money to DCA, right? So now I'm just continually stacking. Although with these prices though, I am stacking more aggressively, right? So it's the amount I would be stacking anyway, and this being one of those times, I'm stacking a little extra aggressively, right? Just because again, prices are extremely good, right? So for now, the question remains, and what I'm still kind of like pondering on is what to do from here, right? Do I add to certain positions? Because this is another thing. Was kind of expecting to not hit all my targets with a lot of my coins. I hit every target on every allocation I had because of these dips this past month. Right? So now the question, I got to look through and decide, okay, do I want to up the ante on this one? Do I want to decrease this one? Do I want to consolidate this other one? Or do I want to start new positions? Because that's something that did catch me off guard a bit, is that I wasn't expecting necessarily to start new positions, especially on some of these bigger cap coins this late in the game, right? But because of where these prices are, it's like getting a second chance at prices from the deep bear market, right? So that's where things are kind of eye-opening, right? So we did have a second chance. So we'll go through a list of the coins and specifically what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at those coins, right? So it's not going to be a list of buy these coins, these are going to do the best. Who the hell knows, right? It's just specifically what I'm looking at and as to why and why I see the value there, right? Because just to kind of proceed all that, what I'm looking for is coins that are number one, high confidence plays, and coins that have a reason to pump. Like, what is the reason that they can potentially pump? Okay, is it VC backed? Is it because hardware manufacturers have an incentive to pump that thing? Is it a coin that I just have high confidence in? Is it a hot niche? Those are the types of things I tend to consider, right? Especially with any long-term holds, because at this point, again, I'm still trying to consolidate. I'm not trying to have freaking 50 shit coins all over the place, right? I'd rather have a smaller amount where it's just higher confidence and allocate higher amounts into those, right? Um, so looking at the market where we're currently at, again, market is extremely rough. Although it's recovering slightly, we were down to 78,000, 77,000 just a few hours ago, right? It's currently recovered a tad bit up to 79.6. Will it continue? We don't know, but because Bitcoin's down, everything else is down, and it's not just specific to crypto, right? Right now, it's the whole macro is a shit show. A lot of it is because of these tariffs, right? It's uncertainty in the market, a lot of volatility with the tariffs until realistically we actually get deals in place, like longer term deals, and not just a deal for a couple of days or a few weeks until full deals are secured. It's gonna be rocky, right? That is definitely one of the bigger factors going on right now. The current deadline is April 2nd, right? They're using these things as bargaining chips, but they are kind of fighting back a bit, right? So definitely volatility there. A lot of uncertainty in the market. Just we don't know what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. Are they going to come to a resolution or not? Potential government shutdown here in a few days. CPI print in a few days. FOMC meeting in a few days. A lot of stuff just all at once. Even with all this bullish stuff that's been going on as far as regulation, legislation, the SBR, a lot of positive news is just not going to do anything until we have more certainty in the market, which may not happen for a while, right? There's been a lot of talks about them specifically trying to dump the market in order to kind of speed up QE a little bit, which that may play in our favor. Who knows, right? This is something you have to kind of come up on your own, decide your own thesis where you're at. I have my own game plans. I'm still bullish on the same timeline as always, right? Q3, Q4, that's been the name of the game from the get-go, right? Any buying opportunities, we're going to take them. But at the end of the day, that's the time when, for me, the price matters, right? I'm not going to be selling now. I'm going to be selling then, right? So obviously BTC is down. Let's look on the mining perspective. And this is where it's also a shit show. It's just a bad time, right? Alts are down pretty massively. So profitability is going to be down massively, right? Even the go-to, which was script ASICs, the L9, at a 10-cent kilowatt hour down to $10 a day. Okay, so massive difference from even just a few months ago, back when it was between 40 to $60 a day profitability, right? Massive change, and definitely not a good feeling right now if you're one of those who spent like 15K on one of these L9s when they were at the peak of the hype cycle, because they're currently under 9K now, right? Even if you pre-order this thing for those April batches that you're probably not going to get till May that were $99.99, they're cheaper right now, right? So that's kind of why it's hard to like pre-order things so far ahead of time. And as we go down the list, and this is at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, right? So you have to factor in your own electric rate, but it's just getting pretty rocky, right? So even like the L7, for example, at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, $1.80 a day, right? So definitely rocky, and that doesn't mean it's going to go down from here, right? As soon as Doge does recover, because again, it's down to like 17 cents. It was at 40, 50 cents just months ago. We do eventually think it is going to recover, so it's going to go up. Obviously, it's just right now it's a shitty time, especially for a lot of these smaller alts. You can see there's so much more that are in the negative than in the positive, even at a 10-cent kilowatt hour. Okay, it is pretty freaking rough right now, right? In the GPU mining world, kind of more the same, right? This is another one where even at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, CMP 178Xs are barely break even, right? Negative a cent profit on iron, not very good there, right? So kind of the same thing. So same mind frame there. Am I adding more GPUs for mining? Absolutely not, right? At least not right now. If anything, I may dump the last 10 just to buy more coins just because of how good these freaking prices are, right? That's 100% where my focus has been these past like 2 months, right? And where it's going to probably continue to be at least until these things recover, right? Just because prices are so freaking low. And that's 100% where the focus is going to be and where the goals are going to be made right now, right? This is such a big opportunity. Didn't think we'd see. Let's look at some of the major alts. Look at Solana down to $118, right? Again, months ago it was at 250, 260, had broken all-time high. Okay, crazy where we are at now, and it's even crazier to think that yes, it can still go down further, right? Again, this is one of these that did pump extremely hard. When they pump extremely hard, there's always potential for it to go back down, right? But that's also a reason why if you bought deep in the bear market, you're really not too phased by this, just because again, this is where this when we're buying back here, freaking 10 to 20 bucks, that was the sentiment back then also. As a matter of fact, it was way worse. Okay, so this is why a lot of us aren't really phased. A lot of us, our portfolio, yes, it's down big time, but we're still up a pretty big chunk if you are accruing back during these times. Again, people have a very short-term memory of where things were, even going back with like Bitcoin, for example, right? We're currently at 80 grand. Before the election, we were in the 60s. We were in 50. Remember this long-ass stretch of 50, 60K up and down for months and months? And then let's go back to late 2022, back when we were under 20 grand for that extended period of time. We've gone up quite a long ways. Okay, so it's quite a ways down or quite a ways away for me to be bearish and think this thing is over, right? So is it a big downtrend though? Yeah. Is a 30% retrace super unusual, whether it's a bear or bull market for Bitcoin or any altcoin, any crypto in general? Not really, right? It's just, it is a big difference though. It is a big swing, especially when you look at the amount. Although kind of oddly enough, it's not too far off from the big dip we had last cycle, right? That big dip started kind of towards the end of April. And that's when it went all the way from in the 60s down into the 30s. Why it was closer to like a 50% cut. And ironically, just a few months before then, right? Which is kind of funny because we had talked about in previous update videos that we're kind of worried that the cycle was like ahead a few months, right? Everything kind of felt accelerated, like it was ahead of a few months. Kind of interesting to see if we do dip out further, if it does get closer to like a 50% cut, and it kind of rebounds and replicates this thing just ahead a few months, right? It's kind of interesting how that's been playing out. Although this set is it's a different set of macro factors, it is kind of close to the time. I mean, you can even just look at the cycle here and just see that drop. It looks very reminiscent of this first one, right? Just kind of interesting there. Something to take note in case things are accelerated a bit, right? Which we don't know until we look further down the line. But as far as DCAing and what we're looking for, again, like I've mentioned, Solana for me is just still too much of a possibility this thing goes down further, right? And to me, because it's already pumped so much, arguably doesn't have as much room to go up. Depends on your price points or where you think it's going to go. Although now at these price points, it is definitely more appealing, right? Although there's too many other coins that are way more appealing. But the reason I'm saying that is my personal price target for Sol was 500 bucks. So when this thing was 250, not appealing at all for a potential 2x. Obviously, it can go well beyond that, right? When I do my price predictions, they're more like minimums. They're more higher confidence that I think it'll hit that amount. Hopefully, it goes beyond that, but to me, that's the minimum. And that kind of look at it more worst case scenario. That's the reason I'm so concerned with those estimates. So when it was 250 and there's only a 2x, not appealing. Now it's closer to a 4x, more appealing, but there's too many other coins that have so much more potential because they've gone down so much, right? Caspa, for example, is another one that, yes, people are worried. Did I really think it was going to go down this low? Not really, right? We waited a long time to really buy in. We wanted under 10 cents for the longest. We didn't get it until here recently. And ultimately, damn near a nickel, right? So a whole lot lower, but is it one that I'm personally worried about? No, but it's also perspective, right? Reason I'm saying that, this is when we bought back in. When it was at 0.00, yeah, back here. That's when we got in. So we're still massively up. So this is one that I'm not too worried about. Price targets still remain. Hopefully we hit that 40, 50 cent range. Could it go well beyond that still? Sure. Does it look a little bit less likely from the sentiment? Yes. Is it still possible though? Also yes, right? So it just gives more opportunity because to me, the goals are still the same. I still feel the crypto market cap as a whole is still going to reach a certain amount. Still believe a lot of these coins are going to reach those amounts. It's just certain ones did drop more aggressive than others, right? If there was a reason that they dropped, then we would change, right? Or if it was an insanely big drop, like there is one coin that it did have a big enough drop where I did actually change my price predictions, but I also doubled down on that coin because of that, right? We'll talk about that here in a moment. But as far as what coins I'm looking at realistically right now, because of how much some of these have dropped, I'm looking for higher confidence kind of degen plays that just haven't gone up as much that still have potential, right? So like for example, Solana, if we look at the all-time, again, it's gone up massively compared to bear market numbers and where we were last cycle, okay? Caspa, kind of on the same boat, right? Realistically, it still could go down further, right? Wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world. This is the other thing to consider. Buying these coins, I'm DCAing for sure. I'm not going all in, even at these prices. I am buying more aggressively at these prices, though. But there's still a possibility that things get worse from here. So you need to understand that it's possible that you DCA into these coins and they go down another 50%. Caspa can go down to 3 cents, down to 2 cents, down to a penny. Got to be fully aware of that possibility. Is it extremely likely? Not as much, and that's why we're DCAing a little bit heavier at these prices. If they go down further, I just DCA more. I DCA more because, again, the end goal is still the same. Okay, you have to assess risk to reward, and that's just been part of the strategy, right? Because even back here, you can see the first video I did regarding goals. It's right at the time. I started this channel literally pretty much right at the bottom. Right, like a month before the FTX crash is when I started the channel. So even that first big update I did regarding that, it's kind of talking about the same thing. Like it does it, the risk to reward is so good with BTC at like 16,000 that even if it goes to the 10,000, which everybody and their mom was saying, everybody's, oh, it's going to go to 12, it's going to go to 10, it's going to go to 8. And you feel the weight of that, right? You're on crypto Twitter, everybody's saying that, you're watching YouTube videos, even mining YouTube videos. Oh, it's going to go down. Oh, it's over. There's no liquidity, no altcoin cycle, blah, blah, blah. That's all the same shit we heard back then. You have to consider risk to reward, right? So for me, just like we mentioned back then, whether you're buying BTC at 16,000, 18,000, it's not going to matter a whole lot if you're predicting that thing's going to go up to 110, 120, 130. So the difference between 16K and like 14K or 12K, in retrospect, it ain't shit, right? Same thing like with Solana. Whether you bought in at $12, $10, or 15 or 20 bucks, when this thing hit fucking 260 bucks, not that big of a deal, right? And that's how you have to look at it. It's risk to reward. Okay, so like yes, I did buy a bunch at 10 bucks. I bought a bunch at 20 bucks, and it's possible that could have gone down further. Could have gone down to $2, could have gone down to $1, but at that point the risk to reward is so good. The potential upside outweighed the downside. Okay, because even buying at $10, it still could have gone down to $7, down to $5. But again, whether I bought it at $5 or $10, again, hitting $250, not that big of a deal. At that moment, the percentage is 50%. It's massive mentally, think long term. Again, think rationally. Get the emotions out. Use this big old thing. Okay? Just stay focused. That's the biggest thing I can say from what we've learned from buying during these shitty times. Okay? And right now it's definitely just one of those times. So realistically, what I'm looking for are coins that didn't perform so well that I think have a lot of upside. So like AVAX is one that we were stacking for a long time and did just recently sell. Sold this thing at 25 bucks. I felt kind of shitty. Feeling pretty good now, right? It's down to 16 bucks. So the big thing here is that for quite a while, like for example, when it was nearing its highs, 40, 50 bucks, it's not appealing at all if your target's only like 100, 120 bucks. Okay. At that point, again, when we're accruing at 10 to $12 during, the depths of this thing, made sense at that point. If your target was 100 bucks, potential 10x for a high confidence play, makes sense. At these prices, pretty freaking good, right? I still feel confident about the 100, 120 range. Now at freaking $16, definitely becomes appealing again, right? Because this is one, again, it's a higher confidence play. The downfall just didn't get as much traction, right? And even right now when we look at it, again, it's not a whole lot higher than some of these lows back here, right? Which is kind of a double-edged sword because that's also what makes it appealing here, right? So this is a pretty appealing one. Another one with a very similar chart currently is like Near Protocol. This is another one that we were stacking. So again, the theme here is a lot of these are coins that we did hold. They pumped up a good amount from our initial buy point and we sold for profit. Now prices are pretty juicy where it looks like I may jump into some of these again. Near was another one. We were stacking aggressively in this dollar range. Okay. Ultimately, recently did have quite a few pumps, especially with those AI pumps, because that is what they did pivot into the $8-10 range. Overall goal with this one was about in the $20 or so range, right? Depending on traction. This is another one that doesn't get a ton of traction. It does have these little moments, but it's not like some of the other bigger layer ones. Okay. But at this price point, if $20 is still in play, which for me it definitely is, it's definitely another one to look at, right? If we look at the overall market cap, it still makes sense, doesn't have crazy inflation. So that one's still on point. And again, there's quite a few of these. Render, again, another very similar chart, although this one did break all-time highs recently, especially with this last little AI pump back last March. Did hit around the $12 range. It's under $3 currently. This, out of the GPU, like rental places, this is the one that does get the most hype. It does get the most attention, although it's not the most used or the one that brings in the most revenue, right? Oddly enough, it is a competitor, which we'll get to here in a second. But this is the one that has the pumpamentals, right? This is the one that gets talked about. This is the one that gets marketed the most. Not a bad buying opportunity here at this point, right? Phantom was another one, or Sonic now. Kind of in the same boat. Again, kind of a similar place. This is one that we did also stack early. This is one of the first ones I did fully get into. I was a big fan of it last cycle, so that's why we were stacking from 18 to 30 cents, right? Ultimately, we did sell around in the dollar range. The beef here was the transition to Sonic. Was not a fan. The tokenomics changed. I was bullish on the tokenomics. I was bullish on what they were. And it was very iffy as to how the transition was going to be because it was still undecided whether both ecosystems were going to be supported. You had the option of trading in your Phantom to Sonic or keeping the Phantom. Didn't like that idea, right? So now it is fully transitioned to Sonic. Yes, the Phantom token is still there, but it's definitely going to be Sonic only at this point. DeFi does look like it is going to get a resurgence this cycle. We have seen it already, especially with all this RWA hype. DeFi is going to play a big factor in this, okay? Also in the AI sector, DeFi, which DEF AI, is also going to be a thing. That's a big thing that a lot of the agents are kind of pivoting to. Being able to essentially run your DeFi for you. Being able to literally put in an input, a text input, and having it do things for you, right? So that's probably going to be another little sector. So overall, Sonic as a layer one has a very defined niche. They carved their way into DeFi. It is specific to DeFi. I love that's what was my favorite thing with Phantom. It was very clear and defined what they were going to be, and they did it the best. And this is why ultimately recently it did have a resurgence. And it has trickled back to not too far from the previous lows, which is that 18 to 30 cent range. It's in the 42 cent range. Again, was a dollar or damn near a dollar just a few weeks ago. Okay, so this is another one. These are the types of things I look for. Now, this is one that has a very different chart, right? And this is actually the one that I was mentioning that the price target did change for this one because of how much it freaking dropped. Okay, so this one dropped massively. Again, bear market high, 368. It's down to 29 cents. Massive, massive drop. Did not expect it just because, again, there wasn't a hack. There wasn't a vulnerability. The team didn't leave. Nothing has happened on that front. It's just been sell pressure, which is kind of borderline unusual that it's dipped this hard. It is extremely weird because, again, they're still active. They're still developing. Their DeFi system is still growing. Nothing has changed on that front. But the token price has been in shambles, and I believe a lot of it's ASIC sell pressure. Okay, it's just been ridiculous. So this one, again, our price predictions, possibly around $10, right? So around in the $3 range, not that big of a gain. $2 range, a little bit better. Obviously, at this price range, extremely better. Okay, so this is one why I didn't want to buy unless it was under a dollar, just because, again, how it pumped up so hard. That was our worry that it could retrace back to these levels. And it kind of has, right? A bulk of our stacking was during these times. Didn't get enough, though, so that's why I did have to buy in that dollar range. And ultimately now I did add another pretty big chunk down at 27 cents. Okay, that to me was a big enough drop to justify that. And at that point, kind of restructuring targets, right? So $10 is still on the table because, again, realistically, nothing has changed. If the total market cap as a whole goes up to those levels, it's still on the table. As crazy as that sounds, it'd be a freaking 30x. Okay, I don't like throwing out moon boy numbers like that, but it is still definitely on the table. Me personally, though, at this point, a 10x is extremely likely. $3, which again, that's not even bear market highs. Extremely doable, right? Especially because this one is incentivized by who to pump? The ASIC manufacturers, because they still got a ton of them to sell. So because of how low the market cap is, it's not going to take a whole lot to pump this thing. Again, it's dropped down to number 866, $27 million market cap. Okay. So now at this point, the bag is big enough where as if it hits $3, freaking amazing. If it hits the $10, it'd be redonkulous. It would be on par with like the Caspa and Solana play, right? So definitely still bullish. Just because of the price action doesn't mean I'm done. It's just one that I definitely decided to double down on just because the opportunity is there. I still see the same vision. Again, nothing has changed. The sentiment here, or the feeling here, is very similar to when we're buying Sol at $10. Okay? Just like the argument we had back then was nothing has changed fundamentally with the project. It's outside factors, it's market conditions. That's what is dumped. Nothing has changed fundamentally, and it's kind of the same thing here. Okay, so we'll see what happens. Maybe it goes down to 15 cents. Maybe it goes down to 10 cents. Maybe it goes down to a nickel. But again, it's risk to reward. Even if it does go down to 10 cents, I still see $3 being very doable. Potentially even beyond that being very doable. Okay, so it's a tricky one. It's a riskier one. But to me, definitely worth doing, right? So it's up to you, though. Again, looking at this chart, it's hard to be bullish on this thing, but these are the times to be buying if it's a play you feel you have confidence in that can do something. Okay, and for me, this is definitely one. It's one we've been bullish on from the beginning of this thing, right? We've been talking about it since back here. Okay. Another one on the list of possibilities, Akash network. And again, it's the AI GPU marketplace DePIN narrative. What's appealing here, though, the one thing I didn't factor when I did sell off the AVAX and the NEAR, and why realistically I was looking for another staking play, is just for staking rewards. Didn't factor in how much of a loss of revenue I'd get by cutting those two out, because those were pretty big chunks of the portfolio that was consistently getting revenue. I did cut out those revenue streams. Now it's only Solana. So Akash actually it's extremely high because it's built on Cosmos, which all of theirs have very high inflation. 17% staking rewards here. Okay, so at this point, price is down to $1. The AI bubble last year went it up to about $6. Can it potentially go down further? Yes, though, right? If we look at the bear market numbers, it was down like at 30-cent levels. So it still could potentially go down, but still has the narrative. What has me bullish here, though, is that they are, and what we're talking about when we're talking about with Render, they're probably the leaders in actually making revenue for the GPU marketplaces. They are one of the few where it is up. When you look at their stats, you look at their dashboards, their revenue is increasing, and it's increasing rather rapidly, right? You can see here the total USD spent since November, it has doubled. And you can see the crazy rate of acceleration, especially here recently. Okay, a lot of their metrics are constantly increasing because their network is actually getting used, it's actually getting utilized, and they're actually getting revenue. This is kind of the difference with the others where it's theoretical or potential. It's here, it's now, it's active, it's working. Okay, this is a bullish model you want to see with any DePIN projects. This is kind of the big thing with DePIN, why it's such a good narrative, because a lot of them, or at least the successful ones, the ones that have the potential, are bringing in revenue, right? That's why my interest is in those that are actually bringing in money. It's not just transaction fees from that layer one, it's that, and on top of that, it's like a business model. Okay, and especially when they do succeed and become successful in their niche, and in this case, Akash is their leader in this space, right? In terms of actually bringing revenue. They're not getting all the hype though, right? That's definitely on Render, but they're leader in actually bringing that money. We'll see how it continues. The issue is kind of marketing, right? Doesn't really get talked about too much. People don't really hear about it, but it is definitely getting its use, right? Another one in the same space. This one I keep going back and forth on. Price-wise, it definitely makes sense. This is one that does have a bear market low. You can see the difference in these charts now, especially with this one. It is back down to like extremely low levels. This is lower than the lows of the entire bear market. Okay, we only had hit like 30, 31 cents throughout this bear market. We're currently at 25 cents. So this is a bear market low for this cycle. You can even go all the way back over here. It's pretty nuts, bros. It's down to 25 cents. Under $100 million market cap, rank number 411. Again, not too long ago was at $1.63, right? This is one we were accruing in the 30 to 40 cent range. We did sell at $1. We obviously didn't hit that nice little peak over there, but we did sell at $1. This is one I would consider buying back in. Okay, we've mentioned a lot of good things. Again, similar narrative to Akash. The difference is that it just hasn't come to fruition. Potentially has more upside though, just because again the market cap is so much smaller, and the fact that this one has been around. Tokenomics are pretty good at this point. Reason I'm saying that is when we look at the circulating supply compared to the max supply. A lot of it is already out in circulation. There will be another halving coming up. So very bullish on the tokenomics side. It's popular with GPU miners. It just struggles to get traction though, and a lot of it is just because the damn thing isn't really out yet. They're not really making money from it. Okay, it's one of those things where looking at the numbers it makes sense, but it's just kind of that gut feeling that has me kind of like feeling like no, like it may not get that hype, right? But realistically, this would be the cycle of all cycles. This is going to be the cycle that makes or breaks them. So we'll see. Price-wise, very good potential. We'll see, especially looking at the max chart. Man, previous all-time high was like 3 and change. Yeah, very doable again. Even if it just hits $2, that's an 8x from here, right? So risk to reward is pretty good. We'll see what we end up going with. This next one is a position I did end up buying into. This was Beam. I did make a purchase yesterday, and same thing. When we look at the chart, what do we notice? It's kind of back to the lows. Okay, so this is ideally what I'm looking for. This is their all-time chart. What's more bullish here is that you're not going to have bag holders from last cycle. That's one thing you would have with Flux. There's a shitload of bag holders. And that's kind of one thing that does have me kind of iffy with Flux, right? Versus this coin. It is one that's new to the cycle. It's pretty much at the beginning of the lows. This is one that does have those fundamentals. A lot of people show this thing extremely hard. This is one we had purchased into. Price was a lot higher. We also sold at a lot higher, so it was a nice profit. But our reason for being a little bit bearish was I just wasn't a fan of the games that are being built on it. right? They do have their SDK. They have a lot of stuff going on, actually. We'll talk about some of the others here in a second. But it is one of the more infra plays for Web3 gaming. As you guys know, I'm big into Web3 gaming. It is kind of a safer play. At this price point, definitely much more appealing. Okay, even just the price from a few months ago was at about 4 cents. That's damn near at 8x, even just to reach those bear market highs. Okay, which it did reach twice. Okay, this is one that I think it will go back to that point, potentially higher. Okay, will it be a whole lot higher from there? Maybe, maybe not. I think Web3 gaming will eventually get their push. Will it be towards probably the end of the cycle? Potentially. But this is one that kind of does move quickly with the market. When the market goes up, does tend to go up quickly. When it goes down, though, does go down quickly. Okay. But this is one. The main thing I was bullish on here was the fact that it was a SDK. It is a layer 1 for people to build on. But their treasury, like Merit Circle, which is the original project, that was the big appeal. They are a big investor in a lot of Web3 games. That's kind of what's bullish with them. On top of that, there are a couple catalysts that did get us announced in December that had me continue to watch. Number one was Beam was chosen by Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi has chosen Beam to fuel and shape its future of gaming. Beam Ventures to become the first gaming-focused qualified investor fund in Abu Dhabi, which are big investors in crypto, big investors in general. Okay, so this was a pretty big deal when that was announced. So this is one that, of course, we've been following. They did announce a new AI division. What that means exactly, they haven't fully clarified. We're going to have to see as to what they pivot into. Is it going to be AI in terms of gaming, LLMs, agents? Not really too sure yet. Their L1 was fully defined, as well as having nodes on the network now, right? But this is one that it was one of the safer plays for Web3 gaming, just because, again, it does get shielded hard. It is more of an infra play. It's more of a basket of games and an ecosystem versus an individual game. Individual game coins are extremely risky because if that game flops, that coin is going to flop, right? So this is one we have been following for a long time from the beginning. So again, a lot of these coins are coins that I've followed extensively, right? These aren't last minute choices. A lot of these I have held before. It's just like getting a second chance at bear market lows. Okay, so like for example, this is way lower than our initial entry point. Okay, so again, extremely appealing, and this is one I did decide to add a position, and it is going to be a longer term hold, right? There are other coins that I had bought as short term things, undecided whether I was going to keep them or not, specifically those agents, so like AI16Z and virtuals. We'll wait to see what happens the next week. If they don't pump, I may just dump them for a higher confidence play, right? That to me right now is the name of the game. So this is what's again appealing. We're looking for coins that were bear market lows, in some cases all-time lows. That's what's appealing. It has to be a higher confidence play and coins that have a reason to pump. Again, a lot of fundamentals, a lot of people shilling this thing, a lot of early backers in this thing. Those are the reasons it's gonna do well. Okay. Now for some of the ones, this thing is horrendous. Okay, so a lot of this is one that was one of my picks for those mineable coins that were smaller market cap coins. What had me bearish though was the stupid Dragon Ball ASIC, right? So considering what happened with Radiant, we were saying that the same thing was going to happen here. Their community as a whole didn't give a shit about it. That's what did kind of annoy me, that the fact that the community didn't care about the mining aspect at all and what was likely to happen. And look what's happened, right? If we look, it's the price point lost another zero, bros. Like it went down that freaking much. Okay, even just to hit bear market highs, it's possible, right? But it's just lost a lot of confidence, right? Their response essentially to the Dragon Ball ASIC was, we're going to have a hard fork in 2026 and it'll take care of it then. I don't give a shit about it in 2026, right? I'm looking for it in this cycle. So I should have done my gut feeling and just dumped at that point, just like we did with Radiant when that entity came on, because that would have been a much better play, right? But it's dropped so much that at this point, I'm gonna just hang on to it. Again, it still has the potential just because of who's developing it, who's funding it. That was the main narrative with this one. Those cases are still intact, but we need this thing to pump so Dragon Ball could stop leeching off this thing and continuing this price action. On that same front, we have Radiant, which is down to 0.00018. Okay, so we did buy back in, and I did sell it again, right? When I sold that AVAX, it was also just a lot of consolidation. This was one of them. I felt stupid doing it at the time. Feel better now, though. Honestly, didn't expect it to dump this much harder, but at that point, just wanted to consolidate, right? And this is one that we did also sell when the entity was announced. Was happy we did then because it went down massively since then. Now, at this price point, though, would I buy back in? Honestly, it's almost a why not kind of thing, right? At this point, a million coins being 180 bucks, it's almost like a why not, right? Like a 1%er kind of thing. Even just buying maybe 2 million, it's almost why not. There's so much potential. Can this one go down to zero, though? Honestly, I would be worried. This one and Nexa, if they stay on the same trail, if they don't get that price appreciation, they're never going to get those bigger ASICs because there's going to be no reason to. And it's not going to look too good. Okay. Radiant has a much better community, though. They are more boots on the ground. They're more driven. Like, I would see them succeeding more versus Nexa. Hard to really say, right? So, extremely risky. So, either one of these, I personally probably won't be adding. If anything, maybe a little bit of Radiant. Keeping the Nexa that I do have, just at this point, I'm not going to sell at these lows. At this point, I'm going to write it to zero if it goes to zero, right? It is what it is at this point. Hopefully it can still return. Again, a lot of the stuff is still the same. It's just having fucking the entity, having Dragon Ball on there, kind of leeching off everything. But when we look at the market cap, when we look at the price, if you've never bought any, never had any exposure, you have a little bit of money to kill, a lot of potential, right? Potential to go to zero also, but a lot of potential for upside, right? Again, even if it just reaches these numbers, it'd be insane, right? But as we go down the list, again, looking at more, again, look at their all-time chart, right? So when you compare like Cadina's to something like Solana, drastically different, right? So this one does definitely have a lot of room to run. They are going into more the institutional front. RWA plays. It is a made in US coin. Has pumped actually good amounts, right? So this has had times just even in the past year where it reached damn near $2. Obviously retraced a bunch, went back up to $2. So does have the potential, does have the volume, does have liquidity to go up and do things. Especially now with this little US narrative. We'll see if it plays through. We'll see if that happens. If that does happen, could be bullish. As far as price targets go, I mean, my personal target was like $3.50, right? If it hits that point, I'll be extremely happy. Will it go back up to these levels? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't need it to, though. Even if it just hits $3, $3.50, $5, I will be beyond happy, right? Very similar chart with Helium, especially now at these price points, $2.50. Same kind of deal. DePIN brings in a real world revenue. You made in US coin. Obviously, way more bullish right now than during these times. I do actually think it can hit a similar market cap that I had back then in the $5 billion range. So at these price points, extremely appealing. When it was at like $9-10, not so much, right? So even just potential of hitting $20, think it's very doable. Even just going back up to the $10 range would be extremely happy at this point, right? But realistically, when we look at these all-time charts, I'm looking for this kind of thing. I'm looking for more the degen plays that have pretty good confidence, right? Like, realistically, am I going to be buying more Cadena? Probably not. I met my goal amount, mined it for a long time, so I do have a pretty good stack. So not looking at that, but just these type of charts where they're going back to essentially the beginning, right? This is what I'm looking for. Not so much of this, right? I do want some exposure if I don't have enough. That would be smart, obviously, to get into these smarter plays. But right now, it's almost an opportunity like in the depths of the bear market, right? So that's specifically what I'm looking for. That's specifically what I'm doing. That's specifically how I'm playing this, right? Just because did not expect to get another opportunity like this. But here we are, right? So that's definitely where my focus has been these past 2 months is buying, trading, that whole thing, right? To me, it just seems like an immense opportunity. Let me know in the comments though, guys. What are you guys doing? Do you guys have similar thoughts? Are you guys doing something similar? Are you not? Are you just standing off? I know a lot of people are just holding back because they think it's going to go down lower. And there's potential, right? It definitely can go down to 75, can go down to 70, or it may not, right? This is where it's, at least for me, the way I view it, I'm DCAing, right? If we go down to 75, I'll add some more. Go down to 70, I'll add some more. I'll find something to sell. I'll find a way to get some capital, but this is why we take profits throughout this time. So we have some here. Also recently did have a little bit extra because I did get a 5090, which I wanted to keep, but it's just, it makes so much more sense to sell it. So we did sell it. So that's also giving us a little bit more capital. And did have a 5080. I'm almost debating on selling that one. Also, do have a whole brand new PC that I may just hold off on. We'll see. Right now prices are juicy though. I am just going to continue to buy, right? We'll see what happens long term. Things are still in play for Q3, Q4, so that's the name of the game. That's the planning, trying to do what we can to take the emotions out, sticking with the goals, sticking with the game plan, which has been working for us, right? But let me know in the comments, guys. What are you guys doing? Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.